Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. My name is Ira Bowman. I'm happy to have you here today for a very special. Uh, I'm gonna put. I don't know what happened to Rick. He disappeared. It's a special episode of Marketing Mondays. We are going to be talking to authors and speakers at a unique event that's happening Friday, November 3rd here in Southern California. It confuses everybody because it's in Ontario, but it's not Ontario, Canada. It's Ontario, California, which Canada is also CA and California is CA. So it's just been kind of confusing. But, anyways, I've got a few of the speakers on already. Hopefully, a few more will join us here in a minute. Had a little bit of a mix up. Somehow the time got off on the StreamYard show. So I apologize if you're looking for the other link. We are here now instead of there. But, anyways, I have with me right now Amy Lau, Rick Loke, and Sheila Jones. Welcome to the show, everybody. How are you guys doing today?
Very good.
Excellent. Sheila, I didn't know if you were going to make it because I know you had the time zone wrong too. So I have my show runs every week at the same time. It's Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and somehow one of them thought it was 4 a.m. If you know me, you know I'm asleep at that time. But
That's what I
anyways,
thought.
yeah, I'm excited that you guys are all here. I'm even more excited to see you in person. Well, Sheila, you're the only one I haven't met in person yet, and I've known you the longest. That's kind of funny, but
Isn't that funny?
we're going to rectify that real quick. If you don't know what this GAIN business is all about, GAIN stands for Growth Accelerator Networking Events. My partner and I, Joel Phillips, have come up with this. It's a live event and a book combination. So each of the speakers, well, all but one of the speakers wrote a chapter in our book. There was one speaker who is a franchise owner who couldn't actually publish their content in the book. So they had some legalities that they weren't able to circumnavigate. So they just said, "Hey, I'm just going to bow out of the book just to make sure that everything's on the up and up," which I really appreciate. But the rest of us have written roughly 3,000 words that we put in a book to help explain how small business owners, entrepreneurs, or people who are looking to become either can take their situation and improve it. Now, what I loved about the book and what we did with the event is we categorically covered a wide variety of business topics because, like me, and probably like most of you, we're good at some of this stuff and we're not good at other of the things, which is really cool. For example, you might have some issues in your past that affect the way you think and affect your actions and therefore preclude you from being successful. Eric and the amazing Rick both touch on that topic in their chapters, the hero's journey, the entrepreneur hero's journey. I just read that chapter yesterday, Eric. Very well done. I loved how you took two different people and kind of broke out how their story goes and how you're able to help them. So we'll get into the specifics of these chapters. I haven't actually read Sheila's or Amy's chapter yet. I look forward to reading that. Rick, in full disclosure, I'm reading yours right now. My bookmark is right in the middle of Rick's. But I was able to read Fritz's and Joel's and a few others, Eric. Very interesting. Each chapter is different, but that is the idea behind this event. You can come and likely get a lot of good content on what you need, the help that you need. Plus, at the live event, which we'll all be at, we're going to have tables set around the perimeter of the event where you can talk to, like, if you read the chapter in the book and you decide, hey, I really want to talk with Sheila, or I really want to talk with Amy or Ira or any of the authors, you can come throughout the day and you can meet with us. We're also having a networking session and a hosted lunch. The best part, probably for most of you, is general admission to this event is 100% free. It's no admission for general admission, if that makes sense. No charge for general admission. So we're excited to have everybody out. Let's do this real quick. Amy, we're going to start with you because I know you were the first one in, so I'm assuming you're the most excited. But we do this in the book about the author. Yeah. So let's kind of do that. Maybe let's do 90 seconds or so of just an introduction of who you are professionally, and how you help folks, and then we'll get into the contents of the book and the event in just a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Uh, who am I professionally? So I've had about 30 years of background in corporate technology sector, working for companies like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, Salesforce, Cisco, to name a few, as well as startups. And what I did was encapsulate all of the experience in sales and in consulting that I've worked in digital transformation teams and so forth, and put it into something that the small business and the medium-sized businesses can utilize. So I'm taking that experience and transferring that into helping you scale and grow your business from a sales perspective. The three-legged race is an idea that I came up with Rick Loke, the amazing Rick, who is on here as well. And the three-legged race is really based on the three legs being having to, like when you run a three-legged race, two of your legs are tied together. So you have to be in perfect synchronicity and harmony in order to finish the race and win the race. And so those three legs that we've identified in business were innovation, sales, as well as financial strategies in order to make sure that you're profitable. Because without profit, you're looking at just a hobby. Without sales, you have a hobby of innovation and financials.
Awesome.
So background.
Tell everybody where you're from. We're going to get into more of this. You're going into details about your program, but we really want to know who you are first. So where are you living these days?
Well, I am currently in Austin, Texas.
There we
I
go.
came from 24 years in the Bay Area, originally from Seattle. And if you go back before that, I was born in China and I was raised in Hong Kong and I grew up in Seattle.
So you've been around a little bit.
I've been around a little bit.
I love it. Where in the Bay Area where are you from?
San Francisco specifically.
Oh,
So
you were in the city. Everybody's from the Bay Area, but like, these little towns, Pleasanton or Los Gatos or something, right? Anyways,
yeah,
cool.
absolutely. After the pandemic, we decided to move out here and have a little more um, space.
Get some land. Yeah, Austin is very much got a Bay Area vibe. There is no doubt about it. I lived out in Texas for 4 years. I really liked it there. All right, we got Dr. Andrea Renee Rivera, who's joined us too. We're doing introductions right now, Dr. Andrea, so you didn't really miss too much yet. But we're going
Okay.
around the room and we're doing 90-second introductions. Sheila is going to be next. Sheila, my friend, like I said, I've known you the longest of everybody on the panel, but we're the only two that have, well, I haven't, you're the only one on the panel so far that I haven't actually met in person, which I just find that funny, but I'm so glad because you're out on the East Coast. I'm glad that you'll be coming out here on the West Coast and we'll be finally able to see each other in person. I can take your photos and all that stuff. It'll be fun.
It is amazing that we've never met in person. I mean, I've probably known you for like 5 or 6 years now, so
Yeah.
it's really crazy. And we've worked on a bunch of different projects together, so it will be good to meet in person. So, just a little bit about my background. I currently live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but I've lived in Annapolis, Maryland, Danbury, Connecticut, Voorhees, New Jersey, and Rogers, Arkansas. And so all of those moves were connected to the companies that I worked for: Nestle's, Campbell Soup, Corporate Walmart, Savency Fromage and Dairy, based out of France. And I am really happy to be part of this group because there's a very diverse amount of knowledge coming out for the book. And being able to be in person at the event is going to allow for a lot of interaction with business partners and to have a lot of fun, right? Being able to interact with people and get to know other people that are in the business world, especially in the Ontario, California area.
Yeah. First of all, Amy has an impressive resume. Sheila Jones also has an impressive resume. In fact, of everybody on the stage, I might have the least impressive resume. Even though you guys are here on my channel, I appreciate it. I really was blessed when I thought of this concept, and then I took it over to Joel Phillips, who's my partner in this, and we were fleshing it out. one of the things that I really wanted to do was make sure that we had experts in our field in each of the categories, and I'm so happy that we accomplished that goal. You guys are making us look good, which is really cool. So, anyways, Sheila, we'll get back to you in a little bit. I got lots to ask you. In fact, you were at the Maryland game just this last week, yeah? Didn't I see
I
your
was
picture?
I was down at University of Maryland speaking on a couple different topics, but the game was actually at Ohio State, so there was a
Oh,
lot
it
of
wasn't at Maryland. Okay,
yeah,
well,
there was a lot of buses that said, beat Ohio State on there, and there was a lot
there
of
you go.
people very amped up around the area. So it was a good day at University of Maryland.
Yeah, always a good time to visit that school. A lot of people don't know, but I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, so I have an affinity for the University of Maryland, even though I've never been there. I didn't attend there or anything like that, but I've got family who did. All right, let's go. Dr. Andrea's on the move, so we're gonna give her a minute to get settled. Let's go with Eric Rosen, my friend Eric Rosen, who does live in the Bay Area,
Thank you, Ira. Originally, I hail from New York City
New York.
and born in Brooklyn, raised in Staten Island, and lived for a time in Manhattan itself, and then moved out to the Bay Area in the early 90s. Although I did do a stint in Montreal for 4 years for university. So that's kind of my geography. And what else? What else do we? Oh, yeah. What did you do for work? Well, I was one of those people that I was not just a job hopper. I was a career hopper,
Yeah,
and so I had 3 different careers before I got into hypnotherapy, and it was really just a what do you say, a journey of finding right livelihood. And in retrospect, I recognize that at the time I couldn't have seen the bigger picture, but each different career, once it started in financial services, which me and it had nothing in common, and then I went into instructional design and multimedia and corporate training and designing all that kind of interactive stuff. And then came copywriting, writing for marketing promotion. And then eventually I found my way into hypnosis and now coaching and other kinds of business development. So it's been a very all over the place kind of experience. But I've been in my hypnosis practice now is a little over 12 years.
yeah,
And somehow I knew when I got into that I had found my path and purpose.
and
And
and you
just the thing that really has gotten traction.
You had a battle with obesity. You detail that a little bit in the book. Did I read it right? You do some bodybuilding now, or did some
Yeah,
bodybuilding?
I had a brief period where I was technically obese, but I was always overweight. I was like that first generation of kids that got too much TV and
Yeah.
not enough outdoors or not enough exercise or what have you. And so, in time for college and then through like my 20s, I was able to get back down to reasonable weights, but those weights are still higher than where I'm at now. So I'm proud of that. And I'm giving myself a motivator of shedding 10 pounds in time for our talk on November 3rd.
Well, we could race because I'm losing about a pound and a half a week right now,
uh
Wow.
which would put me right about that level, which is good.
I
But
imagine with all the walking you do, if you just added one other kind of exercise, you'd probably double that to 3 a week, I would think.
yeah, I just made a change today, so I've lowered my walk count moving forward. But the reason why I did that, well, there was a business purpose, but for the health side of it, I am going to start lifting free weights. I have free weights, I just haven't been
Yep,
lifting them. And my thought was I wanted to lose a certain amount of weight before I started to cut, because I didn't want to build muscle over the fat. Now I'm not a
that's what
doctor.
I did in 2022. I did
Yeah,
exactly that. Resistance training for fat loss. And there's
yeah,
a way to do that. That's, long, slow reps, very long sets. And
yeah.
that's the strategy. So you're not trying to lift your maximum, although you're trying to get better and better at what you can lift. And then I switched gears about a year ago and went into the more of the muscle building with resistance training. And here's a warning, Ira. it's gonna explode your appetite.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
So,
Well,
so you gotta find that balance.
I drink a ton of water, which really helps because my stomach is literally full a lot. So even though I'm not eating a lot of calories, I'm drinking a lot of water. I used to drink nothing but coffee, full disclosure, for years and years and
Uh-huh,
years. I
uh-huh.
just had nothing but coffee, but I drink water. I drink at least 8 of these a day. It keeps me full, which hopefully that will help. But yeah, no, I'm painfully cognizant of the calorie increase that might happen, but that's okay, right? It's all about, like you guys talk about, visualizing, making sure you have healthy thoughts. And Dr. Andrea talks about it in her chapter as well, which I read yesterday. Very well done, Dr. Andrea. And I don't want to make you cry, but it was touching to read your dedication to the chapter to your mom. That was pretty cool. So, all right, without further ado, it looks like Dr. Andrea is settled. So, the biggest baby of us all is going to have to be my closer here on the introduction. Rick was over 11 pounds as a baby. He's never been small. Anyways, we'll come back to Rick in just a minute. Dr. Andrea, I had put you on mute just as you were settling, but you're on live now. Your mic is hot. So do us a favor, just 90 seconds, kind of a professional summary. You detail it very well at the end of your chapter in the book. You've got some incredible things, including being featured in all kinds of publications, which is amazing. So why don't you focus mostly on the thing that you're doing now, as it's the most relevant to the show and to the book.
So I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I came into that career because of my own suffering. So I've been a chronic pain patient for almost 30 years, since 1994, because I was hit by a taxi cab in the street in New York at 23rd and Madison Avenue. So I had a tussle with the taxi. Taxi won that round. I was going 40 miles an hour, so I had a 90% chance of death. So because I was so young at the time, I was only 21 years old, the life-changing experience for me is that the third consultation with the orthopedic surgeon, he had suggested since I was young that I take up a hobby like yoga. I do all my physical therapy. I let myself heal before I would have surgery so that I had a chance to be empowered, help myself, but also recover to a point where I wouldn't need multiple surgeries for the rest of my life, because all of the orthopedic surgeries have a limited shelf life. So if you're 21 years old, maybe I'd have 3 knee replacements, 2 shoulder replacements. Some of my patients are on 14 surgeries that were athletes, multi surgeries throughout their career. So that was really a game changer for me. So that's why I invite everybody to become their own medicine, because that's been my journey. So can you live in a way that promotes your wellness, that prevents the need for big interventions like the surgeries? And so I love to teach people how to take care of themselves. I give people a custom self-care toolbox. And ideally, that can not only create recovery, like in my case, but also create wonderful longevity and peak performance. And I like to say more Jedi and less hustle. And so I just moved to Colorado. That's why I was moving around. Literally today, I've been unpacking my pod all morning that arrived today to get myself set up, because I've been in Los Angeles for 20 years until I came here to Colorado to focus on doing more retreats, group events, things like this that we're doing together now. I've been working with patients for 13 years. I was a yoga instructor, personal trainer, worked in a gym. I also specialize in weight loss too. When you're a chronic pain patient and you can't exercise, when you're recovering from surgeries and you got side effects from meds, you can gain some weight. So I've had my tussle with that too. And
it's
so
part of the human, it is part of the human condition, right?
Yeah. And also, stress makes inflammation, also shuts down digestion and immunity. That'll make you gain weight to be under stress. And so, health crisis, financial crisis, that'll pack on some weight, maybe some stress eating, so you can land in a place.
2 things I learned reading your chapter yesterday. I learned more than 2 things, but 2 things that caught me. And I don't know why I hadn't thought about it, but it was really cool. First, I just put in the comments, traditional Chinese medicine has been around for 8,000 plus years, and books the written part of it, 4,000 plus years, right?
Yes.
That is awesome. that you have so much data and so much history in this. When my daughter got sick a couple years ago, and she's still sick, but one of the things they asked us at Orange County, what they call CHOC, Children's Hospital Orange County, was, "Are you open to Eastern medicine?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So we've had some exposure to that, and some of the acupuncture and the visualization techniques and things like that.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
very helpful. So
Well, to balance hormones, also to improve digestion, it's a global effect because we get out of fight or flight. So we use acupuncture for PTSD treatment effectively too, with military, public servants, trauma, war-torn country. My car accident gave me some nice
yeah,
PTSD
yeah,
too. And
you got some firsthand experience with it.
yeah, totally. And then I use it for pain management, so I don't need any prescription drugs. You guys maybe heard of the opioid crisis. People can overdose, so that the drugs you have to keep taking a higher dosage because they stop delivering the pain relief results, and so that can cause organ failure too. And then you
100%.
have the herbal medicine for anti-inflammatory effects. So less inflammation, less pain, more energy. So you got a lot of, and it really is about lifestyle training. You can live like a Jedi, feel like a Jedi, act like a Jedi when you live like a Jedi.
100%. And I took photos over the weekend at Michael Ravenwood's event that looked like people were throwing electricity from their hands. And that's one of the things I said on social media, Jedi Master Training.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to come back to it. I want to prep you, and you can let me know if you don't want to answer this. But in the book, your chapter, you mention that one of the things that you are trying to help people with, and you overcame yourself, was this self-harm
Yeah.
and suicide attempts. And if you're comfortable with it later, I didn't prep you for that, but I just want you to be prepared. I'm going to ask you about that. That's something that
Yes.
I just wrote, and you were part of, the mental health
Yes.
book, and that's something that I didn't talk about in the book. Now, I personally have not had suicide thoughts, but I have had plenty of friends who have shared that with me. In fact, one of my friends did commit suicide, and it was devastating back in 2020. So it's something that I'm glad that you brought it up in the book. And I want people to know, if they have questions about that, not only can they reach out to you personally, but they can even ask them here in the show. We'll get to that later.
Yes.
Okay. Last introduction before I introduce myself, just in case anybody watching doesn't know who the heck I am yet.
But what
I'm
about
affectionate.
Rick?
I'm sorry.
But what about Rick?
Oh, no, that's what I was just setting that up right now.
Oh,
I was
okay.
about to say, I affectionately refer to Rick as the world's biggest baby. Not technically, but he was a really big baby. And if you stand next to Rick, Rick and I are like Schwarzenegger and DeVito. So when I stand next to Rick, my head is so far down to like his waist. I don't even know if I'd be a good shoulder, like for him to lean. He'd have to like lean his elbow on my head. It would look really weird. But anyways, this guy is a gentle giant, super smart. He does something, and Eric does as well. This what is it?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
I was thinking NCL, and I'm like, that's not right. NLP. NLP. I have dyslexia, in full disclosure, and I mix things up all in my head. And all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute, I had this set up, and then I blew it. And it is the amazing Rick. He has a 4-letter last name that is so hard to pronounce. It's just Loke, but when you see it, you're like, I don't know what to say. It's tongue twisting. What nationality is Loke, Rick?
It's German ancestry.
German. Yeah. All right. Well, when I moved to New Braunfels, Texas, Amy, if you don't know where that is, that's about an hour south of you there in Austin. When I moved to New Braunfels, Texas, I was expecting, when I moved to Texas, because I had never really hung out there, I was expecting nothing but Spanish and English, right? So I moved to this place, and the first thing I learned was I lived in this place called Bexar County. So I'm like, Behar, Bexar. I didn't know what the heck to call it, and it's Bear. And the reason it's Bear and not Bexar or something like that is because it's German. I didn't know I was moving to a German part of green, for example. I thought is Green, and instead I don't even know how to spell it. But if you see it, you're like, okay, I don't know how to say that. And they say it's green, like the color. And I go, huh, that makes no sense because it's not Spanish at all. And then they told me about the German stuff, and then I learned about the German festivals and stuff like that, which was a lot of fun. Oktoberfest and those things. Anyways, none of that has anything to do with anything. It's just my way of showing my affection for my giant friend, the amazing Rick. So 90 seconds or so, Rick, give us a professional introduction as you detail in the book.
Very good. One thing I want to put in is each one of us probably understates who they really are and what they're capable of. As a case in point, Eric is the #1 hypnotherapist in the San Francisco Bay Area, if even not a broader perspective. And I love acupuncture. In my opinion, acupuncture helped my son stop having seizures. It's amazing to open, a lot of great can come from non-traditional, let me write you a prescription nonsense. So thank you, Dr. Andrea, for what you do for people. I know, I attest, it's amazing, as is hypnotherapy. Just brilliant. And I'm also hearing a theme. I too am losing weight. I don't want to be left out. Woohoo!
That is fantastic.
Yeah. And professionally, I used to program computers. I used to work at a little bitty company called Intel back in
just a small company.
Yeah, it was a small company. Back in the early 80s, I was working swing shift and taught myself to program computers. That turned into quite a nice career for 20, 25 years. And in the early 2000s, I started transitioning. You might have heard there was a .com or .bomb or whatever the term was. So I started transitioning into sales. And at that point, in 2005, became licensed or started studying for financial services, licensed in 2006, and in 2012 started my own registered investment advisor company, 100% independent. And I've also been on a journey of personal training and development for the last 20 years. Let's see, April was my 20th anniversary of stepping foot into this circle of making a difference with myself and everybody that I interact with. Yeah. Oh, yeah. San Jose native, born and raised in San Jose.
What area of San Jose? San Jose, for those of you who don't know the Bay Area, San Jose is like the big city of Bay Area, but it's big city as in lot of land mass. The population is about 1 million people, give or take, always, but it's the largest city landmass in the area. So
a convenient way to think of Bay Area, I like to say it's an upside down triangle. You've got San Francisco to the northwest. If you go to the northeast, you've got Oakland, and then you got San Jose
at the bottom,
in the middle at the bottom. So you got this upside down triangle.
Yep.
That's a good description. So I'm down at the bottom of that, down in San Jose, literally born and raised in San Jose, and moved to Sacramento, California in 2018 with my wife and our 2 dogs, my support team.
Love it. I think your wife actually posted on Facebook, "I'm so proud of my husband." And I was like, I don't know whose husband I didn't know who she was referring to, but I thought it must be you.
That would be my wife, Mary Lee. Yeah, she's brilliant. She's our independent health and life insurance agent, focusing on Medicare and individuals and groups, that kind of thing.
All right. I've got a banner at the bottom of the screen right now. It says questions for the show. Put them in the comments. We're going to be talking about the event. We're going to be talking about the book. I've got some feedback from somebody. I'm going to put everybody on mute. Okay, that was from Eric. That happened to us last time too, Eric. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know what happens. It's not you. It's just the StreamYard stuff sometimes makes a mistake. So when you go to speak, just take yourself off mute. And then when you're done, just put yourself back on mute, guys. And that'll help us with any of that feedback. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the chapters. We're going to talk about the speeches. We're going to talk a little bit about motivation to join us and those kinds of things, because GAIN as an organization run by Joel and I, this is our very first event. This is our inaugural event, if you will. So we didn't really have a lot in the way of marketing materials to show people like, hey, this is why you should be interested. But I'm thankful that a lot of my friends saw the vision and decided to jump in. Like I said, we have 13 total speakers for this event. We're doing it at the Ontario Convention Center, which I'm excited about. I did a show last year in Escondido, California, which is kind of in between LA and San Diego. And I did it at a arts festival place, right? There was like an event center, had a pretty decent stage and stuff, but comparatively speaking, it's a pretty small venue. This is a much bigger venue. So I was excited to get that part. But the vision, I can tell you from Joel and I, what we were trying to do was we were trying to help the speakers increase their visibility across the board, right? So a chapter in a book, which turned bestseller, by the way, on Amazon, I believe last week. Super excited about that. So all these people on stage are now, even if they weren't before, best-selling authors. Some of us have done that before, but it's pretty cool. Some of it, just by raise of hands, who is a first-time published author with this book, Explosive Growth? Okay, so Amy, this is the first time she's been in a book. There's several other that'll be on stage at the event that also this was their first foray into being a published author, so I'm excited about that. It's always thrilling to get a book in your hand with your name on it and read it, but it's even more thrilling when you see that it went bestseller on a list. And some people ask me, well, what does that mean, bestseller on Amazon? Well, they have all these different categories and they track where your book ranks. And there was a couple days last week where we ranked number one, not only in the United States, but also in Australia and Canada for like entrepreneurship and business consultation and business strategies and things like that. It was really cool to see. So anyways, congratulations about that. But our vision was this: how can we help the speakers increase their visibility and create what I call leverage tools? So a chapter in a book, an on-stage appearance, having professional photos taken by yours truly, and then also a video composition, at least, of you speaking so that you could use it on like your website, social media kits, email campaigns, and all that stuff. So that was what we were trying to do for the speakers. And then turn around and look at the audience and go, okay, well, how can we help people in the audience who might have some stagnant growth issues or some voids in their personal or professional development that we can help provide free information to so that they can be more successful as well, right? That's good karma. That's planting seeds. We're trying to just help everybody, from the people who participate from a presenter standpoint and from the people who participate from a visitor standpoint or from the audience's standpoint. And so that was the vision that we went into it with. Now, how successful we'll be is yet to be determined. I can tell you I'm excited about the book because I know that even we've got people watching from all over the world. A lot of those people obviously are not going to be able to come and attend the live event. But the book, we gave it away for free for 48 hours on a Kindle version. And part of why we did that is because, again, our purpose was to help others. So with that stage set, I would like to just go around the room and let's do this. We'll go Dr. Andrea first, then we'll go Eric, then we'll go Sheila, then we'll go Rick, and we'll end on this one with Amy, and we'll just keep kind of going around this way. But tell me, maybe 30 seconds or less, what motivated you when you saw or heard this concept from myself? What got you inspired to say, yes, this is something? Because there was a cost. We don't need to talk about how much the cost was, but there was a cost involved for you guys to participate. So it's something you had to kind of like see the value and decided I wanted to jump in. But I'm curious what that was, if there was something that, kind of like a motivating, like, this is the reason I'm going to do it. So let's start with you, Dr. Andrea. What do you think? What was the motivator to jump in on this project?
Well, for me, at this stage in my life, I turned 50 and my mom passed away in March. So I did a big life review. And as we progress in different stages of life, I feel we have a moral duty to pay it forward. And I feel that my life is a cautionary tale in many ways that can really help people by example not to make the same mistakes that I did. And it's one of the most fulfilling things about the work that I've been doing with patients for 13 years is that we can show up in one moment and in one conversation we can have a lasting positive impact on somebody's life that ripples forward into every relationship that they have. Because once they get it, this idea of mind body mastery, you really are in control of your life experience. You are not a victim, and you don't need anybody to fix you. And it's really way simpler than you think, and it's not expensive. And if we just start to open our minds to that, it can change everything. And by example, people might ask us what we're doing, and then it ripples forward. So the greatest joy that I have is, patients refer family members that never even came to see me, learn the tools that I taught the patients. And that's what our job is here, in my view, in this world. How can we use our life experience to be a benefit to ourselves and others? What's the most good that we can do with the time that we have here? Because it's very clear to me, each day we have is a gift, and we can make the most of it if we choose. So I wanted to show up and do what I can.
Yeah, I love it. Now it's just a coincidence, but the way that the screen is displaying, at least for me, I've got Dr. Andrea, Eric, and Amazon Rick on the bottom row.
Yeah.
Not in any way signifying importance or anything like that, but it is just kind of cool. The three of you really touch on a lot of similar things. It's like,
Mm.
you are a section of the book, if you will. You don't go, we didn't break it up in order where it was by section. We just, we list it in the table of contents, what people are talking about. But I do love the fact that we have mentality and mindset and health, mental health covered so well by the three of you in this book. I really appreciate it. And it does intermingle. I don't know if you guys have all read the book yet or not, but like Fritz is talking about it in branding, and Chuck Coxhead references it in his what he calls win approach, W period I period N period, and you've got to read it. And it's gonna, I'm sure of it, it's gonna be covered also by Amy in her chapter as well. Now, Sheila, I haven't read your Amy's chapters yet, so I can't speak as intelligently about it as I can the others because I've read their chapters. But yeah, Dr. Andrea, I really appreciate this idea of paying it forward. And that's what motivated me. Some people will call this kingmakers, but I've decided about 3 years ago that in my business, one of the things that I wanted to do was help make other people successful, right? Get on board with their vision and help them accomplish their goals. And by doing that, and Chuck Coxhead talks about this as a strategy for social media, instead of spamming people and trying to make a billion, wide networks, focus on helping a few people that you can to elevate themselves. And in doing so, what do? You build this rapport and this relationship that can open up great doors for you. Sheila Jones, for example, and I have been connected for, I believe, 6 years, Sheila. And through our relationship, she has referred me professionally quite a few people, and I've been able to help her on some of her projects because of the relationship that we built. And again, I don't want to make anyone cry, and Sheila, I didn't prepare you for this, but it was very touching to me that when her sister, who was very sick and has since passed away, unfortunately, but through that process, I got to meet and talk to her sister, and it really didn't have anything to do with business. It was
Right.
mostly just a personal moment and some bonding that Sheila and I got to experience. And I'm flattered that Sheila's sister called me very handsome, which I'll never forget. That was pretty cool. I said that she might need some of these, but anyways, there you go. All right, with that, let's go over to, I believe I said Eric. Yeah, so let's go to Eric. And Eric, maybe just 30 seconds or so on what motivated you to join this particular project, this venture. Let's start over.
I just saw it as an extension of what I already do, right? So getting people out of their own way by, it's sort of like, how we'd say the fish doesn't know it's in water. And so I wanted to share something with the world that can kind of get them to realize they're in water. And then what is the quality of that water? Is that water serving them? And could they maybe jump out and get into better water? And so I saw this as a vehicle for getting that theme out to the world. Now, I don't use that analogy in the book, but the entrepreneurial hero's journey is a way of taking stock of your own life and understanding where you are as if your whole life was a story. And when you look at it from that angle, I mean, storytelling is just part of the human experience. And if you're familiar with the hero's journey from Professor Joseph Campbell,
Yeah.
he had done an analysis of over 1,000 myths from every culture, every ancient culture, everywhere in the world over the vast span of time. So what that said to me is that we as humans are hardwired to tell stories, listen to stories, and live them. And the more we tell ourselves certain stories, the more we create our own self-fulfilling prophecies. And once you become aware of that, you've already gotten out of the water to some degree, just with that awareness.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give people a way to really start building on that for themselves.
Yeah, no, I think you accomplished that goal in the book very well. You talk about Campbell's, I guess, and that's the original hero's journey, and then
Yep,
you have a diagram or a chart
yep,
that puts what you call the EHJ,
Jimmy.
which is the
Yes,
entrepreneur's hero's journey, and
right.
you use that phrase. I'm just telling you, you use that acronym EHJ like 60 times, I think. And every time my dyslexic brain was like, okay, I got to get this, right? So instead of reading EHJ, I said it in my mind as I'm reading it. I'm like, okay, I got it down. And so, anyways, I appreciate your writing style and the diagram that helps kind of compare and contrast the two different
Right.
the journeys. But again, if you guys haven't read this book, Eric Rosen's chapter is really well done. He talks about two different, they're not fictitious, but he gives them fictitious names because he doesn't want, obviously, confidentiality reasons, stuff like that. So, and he talks about melding some of the stories so not so people can't pick them out. But I loved it. You have one person who was unlovable and one person who had self-esteem issues. What?
Yeah, one was I'm not good enough, and the other
There
was
you
I'm
go.
not
Yeah, yeah,
lovable.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I actually relate to the first one, I'm not good enough, and some of the like perfectionisms and competition and all that stuff that they do to compensate, thinking that someday they might just come to realize they are good enough. But you talk about it in the book, and Rick talked about this at a conference that we did together. It was a mastermind in San Diego. You know, these core wounds or these memories that we have that maybe isn't even conscious. And Carol Putnam, who also talks about this in her chapter, talks about sometimes how the subconscious thoughts, because it's so much of what we process in our daily routine, affect us in ways that we are not even aware of, but it can hold us back and limit us. Like you say, what about the fish who doesn't realize he's in water, but figures it out somehow, becomes aware of it, and then realizes he could be in better or she could be in better water? How much more?
another class of analogy that I love to use for this kind of stuff are goes to computers.
Yeah.
So if you're running a laptop and you've got too many apps open, then maybe one of those apps is hogging the CPU and the RAM,
Right.
and it's not giving it back to the other apps. But you don't know which one it is because it's
Yeah.
unconscious.
Well, and you talk about this in the chapter. Sometimes you need that guide, which you are one option, right? There's
Right.
several options in our group total for this for people who are looking for it. But find somebody that you feel comfortable with that has the experience. Like Rick said, you're the number one hypnotherapist in all of the Bay Area and maybe a greater distance than that even. So it is nice to have the availability and the access to experts. So thank you very much for joining. We're going to go over to Sheila Jones next. Sheila, what motivated you, my friend, other than my foot on your booty to do it?
Yeah, that was we did
That was
spend a
all,
lot of time
that was
talking
all you needed?
about that. I felt the pressure all the way across the United States.
Yeah.
Well,
I can be intense when I need to be.
I think it was good though. I think we enjoyed a few laughs, which is always great. I think the real reason that I decided to do it was a long time ago. I heard someone say that when you have an opportunity to read a book that somebody has written, it's like having a special moment to be mentored by them. And 6 hours of reading or 5 hours of listening to an audible is like this very special moment where you have an opportunity to understand from somebody different, or to learn from somebody different. And when I think about all the people that I mentor, like specifically, I wrote about communication, and I mentor a lot of people and coach those people. And having effective communication is very important in the world. It's in the world of business, personally, professionally. And when I had an opportunity to be in this book, I thought, I am going to write about communication. I did, Ira, you and I went back on a few topics. I was thinking of a few things, but I really stayed in the lane of communication. My career and the success of my business has been fundamental on communication. I've had an opportunity to be a TEDx speaker coach and to help some speakers really get some success in their lives. And that's all fundamental on communication. I think about businesses that I've won, and that's been on communications. Businesses that I've lost has been on communication as well. So when I think about that, I really feel like helping somebody develop their communication skills and tune up a bit on that could be very helpful for them. And I appreciate the opportunity to mentor from a published book in that way.
Yeah, well, I'm always thrilled to have you be a part of anything I'm doing, because I understand probably more than anyone else on the stage. I understand the things that you bring to the table. And what I mean by that is I know you better than I know anybody else on the stage. That's what I mean to say. But I am so grateful that you decided to go from the East Coast, where you have fall and trees and maple syrup and all those
I'm in a
things,
sweater.
coming on out to sunny California, where it's a balmy 90 degrees today where I am at. And
Sounds tough.
yeah, it's a
I'm
rough
going to
life.
come a couple of days early so I can meet your wife and kids after all those conversations we've had.
Yeah, I tell people out here, you don't have to ever shovel snow, but you will have to deal with ants and things like that. So, there's trade-offs, but it's better to live here in the winter than it is the summer, in my opinion. All right. Thank you for participating, Sheila. And I know you're going to be a blessing to everybody who comes, including some of the speakers. I actually encouraged people. We have a WhatsApp group, and I encouraged them, if they wanted help with their speech, to reach out to Sheila, because of all the people in the group, she's the one that has this expertise in her hip pocket, and she could be a blessing to anyone who needs it. So there you go. Let's go over to the amazing Rick Loke. He is in his chapter, he's talking about some things that can help you with your money, and he has a money background. So Rick, if you want to talk about that a little bit in your explanation, that would be cool for people to understand how you can help them with their money mindset.
Fantastic, Ira. When you and I were at the mastermind together in San Diego, I did a quick exercise with the people that were in attendance. And the concept seems simple. It's each one of us has a story about money. However, it's in what we would call a blind spot, and being able to bring that in front of you so you can see that story you have and be able to complete that story and set it aside. And now you have a blank canvas and you can create a brand new story regarding money. Sounds simple, a little bit more complex than that, and worth the time and the exercise to go through that. I've been on this journey for about 20 years, a little over 20 years, in training and self-development, and I've amassed some pretty amazing tools and skills. I've known Eric Rosen for several years now, and same with Amy, became fast friends, and we have great conversations about what's possible. And through the variety of trainings that I've received, it's pretty quick and easy to leave people empowered and, as you said, elevated, Ira. If somebody's had an interaction with me, they have left that interaction feeling enlivened, empowered, and definitely elevated. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's pretty fun to be able to support people and setting aside their current story about money You don't
Yeah.
set it aside, you complete it. So you get rid of all the little, this isn't going to be appropriate. Let's see, mental
Baggage.
scars.
Yeah.
Yeah, baggage. That's the right word. I had a different word in mind. I'll let you ponder
Yeah.
what that could have been.
SHIT. Hello.
Yeah, turds. Yes.
Well, let me just attest, okay? First of all, this may not be popular, but it's the truth. I have
I'm
for the
sorry to
longest.
interrupt, Ira. Can I make a distinction between SHIT and baggage?
Sure.
Yes.
SHIT doesn't contain what baggage does, which is some profound learning that once you absorb it, gets you to a better place.
Yeah.
Whereas SHIT just makes the place stink.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm about to illustrate that even further here. So I come from a place where, we weren't raised with Eastern medicine. We weren't raised with Eastern philosophy or psychology or any of that stuff, right? So traditional Western Christianity type thinking and mindset. So you can understand where I'm coming from. So I'm sitting in a room with a guy who does NLP, and he does it very well. But I was skeptical, of course, because where I come from, my rose-colored glasses, if you will. So Rick walks us through this exercise, and within 3 minutes, I went from not being conscious of a memory that happened to me somewhere in my 4 or 5-year-old life, remembering it, and then being able to process and move on from it. So incredible how effective and how little time it took for Rick to take me from being a skeptic to being a believer just that fast. And it was powerful and helped me in ways that we don't have time to explain right now. But yeah, if you have never engaged with or participated in any type of an NLP exercise or explored it, and again, I'm going to call on Rick to tell us what NLP stands for. Neuralistic. Yeah,
Neuro linguistic programming.
there we go. I'll get that in about 10 years. I'll be able to say that just like that. But
It,
anyways,
it,
it's powerful, life-changing, and like Eric says, it can take the baggage and help you not only, make it smell better, but you can eliminate it and then have that opportunity to be healthier and better and advance in ways that probably you don't even know are possible, especially if you come from a background similar to mine. So I look forward to that as part of the experience. Amazing, Rick. I don't know what you're planning in your 20 minutes, but I sure hope that there's at least a part of that because it was profound and powerful for me anyways.
it will be very uplifting to say the least.
Excellent. All right. Amy, last but not least on this one, what motivated you, my friend, other than maybe a healthy kick of encouragement again from Ira's boot?
Well, I actually have to correct myself. I have been published. I used to be an editor to a newspaper back in Seattle. And the reason I want to say that is because I did write something on the merging of Eastern and Western medicine because my father is an acupuncturist and he was a neurosurgeon trained in Eastern and Western medicine. And I saw back in the 90s a way that these two can converge and be complementary to each other. And so I wrote an article about that, and somebody wanted to put it in a magazine, but that never happened. So the motivation for coming here and speaking and so forth is that I feel that each of us were born with certain gifts that it is our responsibility and our duty to utilize that to serve the world. And my belief is that originally I was an extrovert coming out of, as a baby, but in moving to the US as an immigrant, I became an introvert and I forgot about my extroverted side because I had to come in and fit in. And so a lot of my communications were in writing and how I introspected into myself. And that's how I shared with the world. And my profession has been in sales. So I had been forced out of the introversion into an extroverted self to get to know others and learn people's stories and connect with people. And I think that is the goal, is that we're here, and in coming onto the stage is the opportunity to really connect with people. And if I can serve in any way to provide them any insights that could help their lives in their business or their personal lives, that's a goal for me. So.
Well, and I love how you're going to use that to show them how it can increase sales by, these improvements, because most business owners that I talk to, especially in the SMB space, so small, medium businesses space, they're looking for ways to increase sales, especially if they can do it without spending a ton of money. So how can I increase efficiencies? How can I improve strategies? How can I transform from where I am to where I want to be? That might or may not include innovation. A lot of times I think, to Sheila's specialty here, it includes just improving internal communications with the team itself, and then of course also external communications. But mindset and communication are a huge part, in my opinion, of improving SMB sales. Right? They're always looking for, reducing price, and I think that is a cheap way out that actually can shoot yourself in the foot over the long run. If you get into a price cutting war with your competition, is bad for everybody. But if you can improve your mindset, if you can improve the strategies, if you can improve the communications with your internal and external communications, that can help you with sales. I look forward to listening to what you have to offer. Again, I haven't even read your chapter yet. I just know some of the things that you do from our
Thank
experience
you.
before the project. So, all right. We don't have a ton of time left. In fact, in 2 minutes, we'll be in what we call overtime around here. But I am planning on holding you for about 30 more minutes, as long as everybody can stay. But here's what I would like to do.
I just want to add. Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add that it's about delivering value. And if you can find a way to efficiently, really deliver value, it's about serving others, as everything in life.
Yeah, and I think that rings true for everybody on stage, everybody that's going to be on stage. Every one of these people, if they didn't deliver value, in my estimation, they would not be a part of the group. This was a very select set of invitations that I sent out. There were people that I known longer than most people on the stage that didn't get an invitation for whatever reason, and that's part of it. It's like, okay, if you're an also-ran and you're not an expert at your field, or you're not, in my estimation, delivering great value, and frankly, a non-selfish person was what I was looking for in that estimation, right? So I was looking for givers. Maybe some of us will recognize this expression. There's a certain credo that we live by. And I wanted to make sure that the people on stage or participated had a philosophy that included helping others and giving back, right? So I love what Dr. Andrea said about that. So let's do this. There's something in my world of marketing. We call it ICP. Stands for Ideal Client Profile. All right. Just in like 20 seconds or less, like a quick hitter. If you could describe for the audience who would fit your ICP, in other words, if someone was like, hey, I'm not sure this is for me, but they might be surprised when they hear your ICP. Like, I will start first. Okay, so with the ICP, for me, it's small business owners who are struggling to gain visibility online. And what we do is help take that part over. Really, we try to make it turnkey so they can simply focus on what they do best and know that their social media, their website, their email marketing, all that stuff is being completely handled by experts who have their best interests at heart, who are going to do the things that are, supposed to do, so they can benefit and increase visibility while they continue to deliver that value that they're so good at and why they got in business in the first place, right? So that's my ICP, small business owners, primarily in the service-based industries, that are not experts in marketing, but they're coaches and accountants and lawyers and all those things, and they can continue to focus on what they do best if they hire us. That's who I serve. So let's go with Amy. We're going to go backwards. Since you were last time, we're going to make you first this time. Who would be a good ICP, or who's an ideal client for you?
Thank you, Ira. My ICP is actually, we work with a select few number of clients, and we work with select people that we think that we can add value to and really, really help. And so that to me is somebody who is running a successful business. They've got the systems and processes in place, and they even have the right people, but there's something that they want to innovate on, or they want to continue building and scaling their business, or they're looking to exit. People that may be working too hard in their business versus being working on their business. So people that perhaps they need to improve their processes, hire the right people with good character that can take over responsibilities, establish protocols like standard operating procedures that can allow them to go on vacation and be able to come back to a thriving business. And so we are specializing in taking a business from survive to thrive and helping them to scale and helping them to exit. So those are the people that we would be ideally working with.
Awesome. Very good. All right, Mr. Amazing Rick, how about for you, sir?
Perfect. Ideal client profile. In my experience, Ira and others, there's a continuum of prospects. And I'm in financial services, particularly working with people in their investable assets. And along this continuum, one end is do it all yourself, DIY.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of it is fully delegate it. As you said, somebody you trust to have your best interest at heart, and being a fiduciary by choice and by upbringing, meaning my parents taught. It's interesting, Ira. They did the worst thing possible. They gave me a conscience.
That's
right?
good.
So if it's unethical, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at, is working with those folks who want to delegate their investments to somebody who's looking out for their best interest. And there's some people in the middle that want validations, like, hey, I've got this idea. It's like, well, you're not a fit for what I do. I could absolutely charge you for my time, which is different than, anyway, I can go down a whole rabbit hole, but
yeah, no,
that's
okay.
where I'm at.
Yeah. And just to be clear, because fiduciary is a word that some people are not familiar with, and you might think that all people in the investment advising space are fiduciaries, and that's not true. And you need to understand clearly the difference between the two. An investment advisor who's not a fiduciary is not working on your behalf. They're going to give you recommendations that help their clients in the portfolios that they support, but not necessarily the best thing for you to do. Even if it can help you, it may not be the best thing for you. But a fiduciary, on the other hand, is supposed to act solely in your best interests. So they take all the information that they know of, that they're aware of. They take your situation and what you're trying to accomplish, and then they make suggestions and manage your portfolio in ways that they would manage it if it was their own money with the same risk factors being involved. So fiduciary is very important. If you're dealing with somebody who is not a fiduciary, I highly suggest you reach out to Rick. And Rick, you can pay me for that endorsement later.
No, that was very, very well said. And to that, I want to add one more thing, Ira. I have 2 books from Tony Robbins on my bookshelf. One is Money, where he's actually describing the kinds of things that I do with people and for people. And then a second book, which the title escapes me because he found out the hard way that the person he was citing in his book called Money had 2 hats. An investment / fiduciary hat, stockbroker hat.
Right. And you better make sure you got the right hat on.
Well, he found out the hard way that person can swap hats without telling you that they've swapped hats.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening to him, to say the least.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like a realtor who is a realtor and not just, an agent or an agent's assistant. I mean, there's different titles, but a certified realtor has a different obligation, credential, and is held to a different standard, just like a financial fiduciary is. So Just make sure who you're dealing with has your best interests at heart, and get it in writing so that, they're not a stockbroker or whatever. All right. Let's see. I think it's Sheila. Sheila is next. So we're talking about ICP here, or ideal client profile.
Yeah. When I think of the relationship to the book, that, my company has 4 lanes of business, And we have an educational platform, we have a speaking platform, a coaching platform, consulting space. When I'm talking specifically about the book and I'm talking the relationship to the GAIN event in particular, I'm looking for people, or the ideal client for me would be a person that is looking to increase their communication skills. They would be mid managers or individuals that have an opportunity to grow and develop and pursue career ladder, but some of their communication skills are opportunistic for them in the space of growing their business. So what do I mean when I say that? I'm a behavior consultant. I'm certified at DIS level 2. And in doing that assessment of the individual specifically, I'm capable of looking at what their personality profile is, then teaching them how to use their personality profile in the mix of other personality profiles, for them to identify the personality profile they're talking to and being able to communicate effectively to those people in a manner, in a detailed process, or no details, depending on the style of personality. So when we're looking at that, it could be a host of different people in specific industries in particular, but those that are looking to increase their communication skills as they move up the ladder in opportunities of career and or business.
I'll tell you, Chuck Coxhead in his chapter talks about listening with empathy.
Yes.
That is one thing I know that you also champion. And I haven't read your chapter yet. I haven't quite got there, but did you mention that in your chapter at all?
I've decided to focus on a couple of key points that would help the reader take away like a step process, right? So that's exactly what I focused on, was a step process, where as the speaker, you need to be watching and looking for comprehension. And what does that comprehension look like? Like, we are often speaking out versus being able to navigate through the conversation. So when you see the conversation not working, when you see the person not giving you the information back in the way or shape or form that you would expect it to come back to you, it's not about getting frustrated. It's about pivoting. It's about you as the person pivoting your communication and continuing to pivot in that space until the communication has been understood. And so a lot of times people don't do that. They'll just get frustrated. Or they'll be like, that person doesn't understand what I'm talking about. Or they'll say, I don't know that. The guy didn't get it, right? Like, I tried to tell him, but he didn't get it. And it's like, that's that red flag where you should be saying, I need to pivot my communication to them versus continuing to push the same message forward in the same way, shape, or form.
Yeah, because if you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, that makes you an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing that you're describing here also is this emotional intelligence that comes
Yes.
from recognizing the situation and adapting your communication style to better enhance the opportunity to have successful communication with the other partner who may not have a high EQ.
Exactly.
Right? So this is how you can improve internal communications and external communications by adapting your message to the audience that is in front of you. All right.
Exactly.
Ira, I do talk about listening a little bit in my chapter, because in terms of sales, people think that it's about like a show and tell, or you're talking about your product, but really the opportunity is in listening to your customers and understanding where they are and where they want to be, and really listening intently and dropping all of your stories and really just having a good understanding of them.
Look, in over 20 years of sales and marketing, I can tell you this: most people are focusing on the wrong message because they're talking about them, the products they deliver, and how well they are compared to their competitors. In reality, most people are interested in what you do only as far as it could help them, especially if it's something not only that they need, but they actually want or care about. If you can identify with active listening where it is that they are focused and the things that resonate with them, and then you can communicate how you could help with that particular thing. Now you've got what I call a silver bullet, right? But if you just go out there foaming at the mouth, talking about your canned pitch and how wonderful you are, and those things, I have a friend who's in the marketing space. Her name is Allison DeFord, and she calls it the wee wees. I love it because people wee all over their website pages and their marketing materials, right? It's like, this is us, this is who I will grab. We is the idea. Instead, I love case studies and I love questions. When a sales rep figures out what you just said, Amy, and they can do what's called active listening, not waiting to speak, but actually hearing the frustrations and the pain points. And I'm just going to lay it out there. The wants are so much more important than the needs, because who in this room doesn't know that we need to eat healthy? We need to get enough rest. We need to exercise and take care of ourselves. But then if I ask you how many of you actually do it, the number goes down a little bit. It's not that we don't know what we need. It's that for whatever reason, we haven't got that to the want phase. But when we want something, we'll find ways to get it, right? That's why Las Vegas does so well. Nobody needs to go to Las Vegas and blow thousands and thousands of dollars on this experience, but people want it. And so they find ways to achieve it, right? So if you can hear what they want and then figure out a way to communicate effectively with your words that you can deliver it, that's where they start to care about the other stuff, who you are and how you rate, how much you charge compared to competitors and things like that. That's a secondary issue, but it starts with good active listening. So thank you for covering that.
Hey, Ira, when I was a copywriter, there was a wee calculator somewhere online, and you could take your marketing copy, drop it in there, and see how self-centered your marketing was.
Yeah. And when I'm evaluating prospects, I give a free 30-minute consultation and I go on their website. It's almost universal for people that I'm not working with. I see it. It's rampant that they have somehow been sold this ideology or bag of goods, I'll call it, that is hurting them, because it's, here's all my credentials and my certifications, and I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm the number one person in this particular space. And it's like they're bragging about how wonderful they are. And the prospect, it's like they don't view it from the prospect's point of view. It's like, if you could just get out of your own way for a minute and think about your ideal client profile and what pain points they have and what things that they search on Google, for example, right? And then address those things. And you could do it in a non-salesy way. It's even better. But, it isn't about you yet, because they don't care about you yet. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, you have to understand the human condition. And most people are coming at it because they need or want something, and they want to see if your company can deliver it. And if they can find it easy and it resonates with them, then all of a sudden they'll go to another page, about us page, and they'll learn all about you and fall in love with your credentials and all those things. So avoid the wee-wees, people. All right. Eric Rosen, I believe it's your turn. So we're looking for ideal client profiles for what you're doing in the hypnotherapist space.
Well, it's really hypnotherapy, executive coaching, and what I like to call a little bit of Silicon Valley witch doctorism.
Nice.
And so the ideal client would be someone who is an ambitious leader. Now, the ambitious leader could fall into three categories as I see it. One of them is maybe they're a VP or a director in a company and they want to get into the chief officer suite. That's one possibility.
Yeah.
Another is they're already in that level, and maybe or they could be in the VP or director level, but either way, they're looking to maybe transition out of what they've been doing and enter into the great unknown and to find their true right livelihood. All right, so that's another possibility. The third one is that you have a successful entrepreneur and they realize that somehow they are the bottleneck to doubling or tripling their business. Maybe it's a fear of public speaking. Maybe it's a fear of success. Maybe it's a fear of delegation. Whatever the case may be, those kinds of folks, they can come with me and make all these breakthroughs in like profoundly short periods of time. And if they really want to go for the gusto, they can work with me for 6 months and be coached and held accountable to actually find their purpose, their mission, their aim, and then from that devise their goal, and then from that devise a plan. and then be held accountable to that plan for, say, a 6-month horizon. But it's better than that, because it's not just about getting that goal. It's about who you become when you have that goal. And so along the way, we can weave in various daily disciplines that have a very salutary effect on their sense of spirit, their sense of well-being. So, for example, we've all talked here about getting the weight off. That might be something that they want to do, so that in 6 months' time, they not only have achieved the goal without having to burn out, they actually look the part. But again, it's more than that. Maybe they want to weave in meditation so that mentally they're in a better place, or they want to start weaving in daily random acts of kindness so that emotionally they're in a better place.
I
So there's
want
all these
everybody
little
to
disciplines that we could weave in without derailing the main goal.
Wouldn't it? The world would be a much better place if everybody aspired to weave in random acts of daily kindness. I love that thought, Eric. Sorry to interrupt, but
Quite all right. Quite all right.
that's a brilliant goal to aspire to.
So that when you have the business goal and you get there, but you're spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically in a much better place, so that when you get there, there's no sliding back. You've transformed so deeply and profoundly that it's only, on the upswing from there.
You have a fan. This lady, Eric Rosen, is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, he is. I completely agree with that. All right, let's do this. We've got about 12 minutes before we need to be off air here. So what I would like to do, everybody shares a lot of good information in the book. I know that because I read some of it before it was published, right? So I got to see some of the rough drafts, and so I have an idea what's said, even though I didn't read the final versions yet for a few of you. I want to ask you to share one tip that you share in your chapter, and obviously you share multiple tips. Quite a few of you do, at least, myself included. But if you could share one tip, let's help people and maybe encourage them through the tips to go, hey, I want to learn more about that. This book is, if you get the hard copy, I think it's $20. You can get the paperback, I think, for $9, and you can get, I think, the Kindle version, the electronic version. And by the way, you don't have to have a Kindle device to purchase and read a Kindle book on Amazon. You can use a web browser and simply read it there if you make the purchase. So I think that one's $5 if I remember right. But anyways, relatively inexpensive to get some great information from not only the people here on the stage today, but over half of us aren't here. So there's a whole other side of this thing that you haven't even gotten experience from. Let me just go through it real quick. We have Ira Bowman, Joel Phillips, Chuck Coxhead, Carol Putnam, who is a doctor as well, by the way, PhD. We have Dr. Andrea Renee Rivera, who's on with us, Eric Rosen, who's on with us, Fritz Colinet, who talks about branding. Very well done. His chapter on branding, by the way. This tall guy, Rick Loke, Amy Lau, coming to us from Austin, Texas now, Sheila Jones from the East Coast, my friend, my very good friend and client, Brad Smith. Actually, my copy still says Brand Smith. I made an unfortunate typo in the graphics, and they didn't fix it before I ordered the book. So I have Brand Smith, which
they fixed it from the batch.
Yeah. Now, Brad, actually, I told him about it, and he laughed and laughed because could you imagine if my name was Brand Smith being in the digital marketing space? It would be genius. Right? He's an executive coach, so it doesn't work quite as well for him, but he thought it was pretty good. And my friend Shelby Joe Long, who talks about discovering your genius, which is a wonderful chapter. It wraps up the book. So we're going to go around the horn. We're going to share one tip from the book that we share in the chapter. And we're going to entice you, hopefully, to want to purchase this book because it is available for sale. And I will put the link to it in the comments here as we share. Let's do this. Let's go ladies first. So we're going to go Dr. Andrea, Sheila, Amy, and then we're going to go the amazing Rick only because I picked on him last a few times, and then Eric, and then I'll wrap it up, and we'll head on out from there. Thank you very much, guys, for being on the show. By the way, I really appreciate it. So
Well,
let's go. Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
yes. So I would say one of the biggest tips for everybody to understand, if you really want mind-body mastery, if you want to be healthy, if you want to have peak performance, you want to manage your stress. So clinically, it's shown stress is 60 to 80% the cause of all disease. The other thing that happens is with all of my ideal clients, 35 to 55, usually everybody's squeezed. So you took on a lifestyle that's not sustainable. A lot of overwork, usually started having children. As we get older into 45 and 55, we can become caregivers for elderly parents. We're doing too much. And we don't put any gasoline in our own tank. So people take better care of their car than they do their body. So we are last on the list. So what I put in the chapter is the 4 pillars of health. If we can do a self-evaluation, we usually spend more time in our business. Maybe there's a quarterly review, at least a 6-month review, at least a yearly review. There's a business plan. There's usually some kind of thinking behind it, but we don't do that for our health. We don't do that for the stages of our life. So I give you the evaluation. It'll also be a handout that I give you at the event. If you can just use that and the other tips I gave you in the chapter to manage your stress, it can be with breathing techniques. You can use, neuroassociative conditioning, reframe your relationship with your past, like we had discussed, with the baggage processing. There's a lot of ways to do that. So if you manage yourself, then you can live healthy long term and even surprise yourself with what you're capable of.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. Sheila Jones, we're going to go with you next, my friend. One tip from the book that you shared that might entice people to pick up their copy, which I did finally get that, and you can see it on the screen. I got that link in the comments, so you can click on it there. And anyways, without further ado, Sheila Jones.
All right. So I had put together a sequence of steps in a communication process, and one of those steps is called bridging and assisting. When you are talking with an individual, I use this a lot, and I teach people this a lot, especially when they are job seeking and they're interviewing. If you are the interviewer and you are interviewing a person and you know very well that their experience from the industry, their experience in their job is pretty significant, but you ask a question to them and they don't give you the information back that you would be expecting upon that question, it's a clear indication that they are either nervous in that interview process or they're just wanting to talk versus wanting to listen when you are talking to them. So I teach people this bridging and assisting. So it's like feeding a person a certain way the communication has to land in order for the person to respond back. Now, I gave an example in the book specifically on interviewing. I knew a person had a really, really strong experience by their resume. When I was asking that person specific questions, I wasn't getting the information back that I needed. So I offered an opportunity to bridge and assist that person. And by doing so, I stepped away. I gave that person a little bit of time to calm down. I came back into the room with a couple bottles of water. And in doing that bridging and assisting process, the person to calm down and to effectively communicate their skill set better to me. The reason I'm very skilled at that is because I am listening to people, I'm watching them, but I think about what a person's skill set is and their background is when I'm interacting with them. And when I don't get the parallel response back, I know either I'm failing to communicate correctly to them or they're not understanding me correctly. So I'm going to bridge the communication to them. I'm not going to just say, oh, this guy didn't answer the question right, or this girl didn't answer the question right. I'm going to go, what I'm saying to them doesn't seem to be allowing them to correctly communicate to me. So I will bridge and assist in that communication. So that is a tool and a tip that I use and I plan to teach more on stage.
Awesome.
And it's in the book. Yes.
That's fantastic because, again, to your point earlier, it's like, well, okay, let me try rephrasing this in a different way and see if that resonates with them better. They may not be trying to be difficult; they just misunderstood what you were asking, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you want
got
to
it.
help them, right? You don't want to cancel them out because it's a communication thing.
Yeah,
I mean, you should be pretty skilled in what you're asking a person to begin with, right?
yeah,
And if
and
you're not,
it shows empathy too,
yes,
because
it
it's like,
is.
look, I'm not trying to crush you here as the interviewer and you being
Exactly.
interviewed. I'm trying to help you to give the answers that I'm hoping you'll give me, because I
Right.
that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand, like, but the interviewer usually has a specific set of answers they're hoping to receive so they can validate that you are the right person for whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Amy
Awesome.
Lau, share a tip, my friend, that you share in the book and maybe that you're gonna talk about on stage with the three-legged race and those things. I can't wait to see the prop that you bring for that, because that could be fun.
Well, there may not be props, so
Oh,
never.
all right.
Yeah.
We could get
Um,
Igor on stage to be your prop if we need to.
yeah, if you want to volunteer. The three-legged race is about synchronization and also balance between those three legs of innovation, sales, and financial strategy.
Yeah.
And so you're building a product, and you have a lot of ideas being generated. You're building a product, and then once you develop it, you got to sell the product. And so sales is like that bridge between the company and yourself. So I go into that a lot more. And then at the end, you want to make sure that your product is profitable so that you can reinvest into the business and bring more goodness and upgraded product perhaps out to the industry. The thing about something that people very much fear, and I've seen this in the many years of work that I've been doing, is that people think that sell, SELL, is a four-letter word. They're afraid of it. And I've heard a lot of people like, I don't know how you can do sales. I would hate that. I can't talk to people. And it really speaks to, I bet if there's public speaking and sales are maybe top two fears that people have out there. Okay. And the fear is really like, if you unpack all of it, it's about feeling scared, afraid of being rejected. So rejection is really the fear. But if you unpack sales, it's really about what Sheila was talking about earlier about communicating and really listening and understanding, because people want to be seen and they want to feel heard. And if you're out there sharing stories and getting to know people and really communicating and building that relationship, sales is no big deal, because if they resonate with your story, then you have a sale. It's an emotion that you invoke. So I would say that my tip is, next time you are trying to solve that, mystery of sales, that black box that people call sales, look back at the relationships that can be built. Because when you're building the relationships with people, you're getting to know them, you're building that friendship that transcends beyond what the product or solution that you're talking about today. It can transcend into a lifetime of opportunities or lifetime relationships with people. So I think that's really the important thing, is that it's about building community.
There's no doubt about that. You're not going to get an argument from me on that, because that's what we preach and try to practice here at our firm with our clients, for sure. All right, I think I'd said the amazing Rick to be the first of the gentlemen. He's the gentle giant. Rick, 30 seconds or so on a tip that you share in the book.
Excellent. Thank you. The title of my chapter is Own Your Thoughts, Own Your Results.
Mm-hmm.
And I dive nice and deeply into that in the chapter. And Napoleon Hill is one of the greatest sources when it comes to beginning to understand your thoughts and how they impact who you are and the results you're producing in the world.
Yeah.
One thing that he talks about, Ira and everybody else, is that there are 6 fears. There's a whole variety of fears, but if you distill it all down, it becomes
down into 6. Yeah.
one of those 6. And you've read the book as well.
Yeah.
And much to everybody's surprise, when I bring this to the foreground, is public speaking is not number 1.
Yep.
People are misled to believe public speaking is number 1 and that public speaking is more fearful. They would rather be in the coffin than speaking about what's going on in life. And fear of death is actually number 6. Thank you for that.
Yeah, just in case you guys are wondering, this is the book he's referencing, Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. It's an amazing book.
And reality is, number 1 is the fear of poverty. And that poverty is created in your thoughts.
Yep.
And so what I'm sharing here, that number 1 takeaway is these 6 fears, and being willing to own your thoughts is the first step. That's the takeaway.
I love it. And I can't wait for people to hear what you have to say and read what you have. Like I said, I'm actually in the middle of Rick's chapter right now. It is very, very well done. And you talk about another book in the chapter 2, the science. Was it The Science of Thinking? What is
the Science of Mind by Ernest
Science of Mind.
Holmes?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the part of the chapter I haven't quite read yet. I read the first half of the chapter, so I got all the Think and Grow Rich stuff down.
These 2 are written around the same time. And Ernest Holmes is kind of the foundation, parallel, if not the foundation, of the law of attraction.
Excellent.
So, excellent. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Rosen, my friend.
Okay. Well, it's going to help to appreciate that the hero's journey is a storytelling framework. And we've seen this not only in the ancient myths, but we've seen it in Hollywood and Bollywood and everywhere else, because it's just so part and parcel to the human experience. And you'll notice that all these stories have this common progression where there's a character, there's some call to adventure, but at first they're reluctant, they don't want to get involved, but something pushes them over the line and they say, yeah, I will get involved. Then they go through all manner of trials and tribulations, and then they get to like rock bottom, where it's almost like, will the character survive? Are they near certain death? And they have to come through that. And when they do, things start changing for the better, and then we eventually arrive at our happy ending. So in the book, I have like parallel segments of, you can think of the whole thing as a circle, a clock face or something like that, a pizza pie even. And we got these slices of the pie, which could be segments of your journey, your life journey as a story. And then you will hit your abyss, which I'm calling the midlife crisis.
Right. That's the part. It's frustrating when you're reading your chapter and you're reading, I think it's Mark and Maria, if I remember right, but when you're reading their stories and you're like, you feel so frustrated for them. But foreshadowing, I kind of knew because of the way you broke out the entrepreneurial hero journey that after the midlife crisis, things were going to get better. And so I was reading it going, okay, I can't wait for the happy part. So anyways.
In my view, no one gets through this life with, let's just put it this way, if they live to life expectancy, no one gets through it without going through a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And just in the same way, any compelling story has that time of the abyss. And I'm calling that the midlife crisis. And right after that is what we call transformation. And that's where people who would seek me out, we do the work and get them to make these profound transformations in very short periods of time. And then the progression from there has to do with mastering yourself. And when you've mastered yourself, you can be effective out in the world with whatever it is you want to pursue. And then there are these other kind of like new, I would call them, you can't call them certifications, but you can call them life milestones, I guess you could say. And things like being a venerated elder. And then we even talk about legacy as where you wind up, where you want to wind up, but you want to wind up as a very fulfilled living legacy.
Yeah.
Now, on the way there, in that time of transformation, I lay out at a very high level what it would take to have that transformation be effective. And while it's not in the book, it will be in my talk. And I'm going to kind of leave you with this now. It's some language I use with my clients to help them let go of either a problem, a negative emotion, or a limiting belief. And I'm going to say it in a kind of hypnotic sort of way here. And if it's not effective in the moment, what I'll tell folks is it's just a homework assignment for your unconscious mind. And when you least expect it, it will pop the answer to you. So it's not like you can dot the I's and cross the T's, which is your conscious mind's way of wanting to deal with things, right? It'll come of its own accord if it doesn't come in the moment. And so the question is this: if you're thinking about, or you're concerned about some limiting belief, some negative emotion like anger, sadness, fear, guilt, or there was some setback you had at work, and you just wanted to take the sting out of it. And the question is, what do you know now that you didn't know then? That had you known it then, it couldn't have become the problem it became.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a learning, let me know. All right, so that phrase gets a lot of neurons firing.
Yep. It's a great thought, and you didn't explain it, but for those who don't recognize that, the technique that he used there to deliver that was part of the NLP, which is awesome. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have been a part of the amazing Rick Lokes, if I hadn't seen his talk at that mastermind that we referenced earlier in San Diego. I learned a lot.
If I may, I'd like to give people a very fast, easy way to kind of internalize what is NLP.
Sure.
It's hypnosis without having to get your conscious mind out of the way. You know, we'll say, close your eyes, go deeper, you know, and go deeper still. And it's this whole effort to get the conscious mind off to the side with traditional hypnosis, the way it's done traditionally. But with what we just did, we didn't have to get involved with, we just bypassed the conscious mind because we were interested in this, and we went to the unconscious, you know, without having to say, close your eyes, go deeper, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you from my perspective, especially one who was coming into the NLP as a skeptic, just because I had no real experience with it, right? It was very, it didn't make me feel like woo woo. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
Yep.
felt like it was legitimate. And then I saw firsthand how it can help in my own life, which is really cool. So I'm more open to it now than I was before because I have some experience with it. Which
Oh,
is
and by
pretty
the way, it's not even Eastern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although it could be. I mean, it's like a Rosetta Stone, or it's like a generic thing. And so it probably could be translated into any culture, just like the hero's journey. It could be translated into any context and it's like a way of looking at things from a meta perspective. Like, again, get the fish to know that it's in water.
Awesome. All right. For my tip, I talk about SEO in the book, which I lead the book off, frankly, because I think there's a lot of people who may not really be interested in SEO, and I didn't want you to judge the whole book. So I want you to read the whole thing, and then when you're thinking about the chapters maybe that you liked the best, mine wouldn't necessarily be the first one that you think of, and that's okay unless you need it. But you know, SEO stands for search engine optimization. So I just talk about the different categories. There's basically 5 categories that Google, and when we're talking about search engines, let's just be clear, synonymous with Google is pretty much the easiest way to think about that because they dominate the overall search engine space. They have 92 to 94% of the overall online searches that happen every single day. The next closest competitor has just under 2%, and that's Bing. And then you've got Yahoo, just over 1%, and DuckDuckGo just under 1%. So the 4 competitors the 3 next competitors to Google, have less than 5% of the overall online search space. So when you're thinking about search engine optimization, you really need to focus on Google. And that's what I do in the book. I talk about how to do that. But one of the things that I talk about is visitor traffic. And this is probably one of the tips that is shocking to people when they consider SEO, because they think, well, I'm doing SEO to get clients, right? Well, yes. But one of the things that you can do to get more prospects to visit your website is pay attention to what's happening to the people who are already coming. And so we talk about things like the wee-wees and how to get call to actions more interesting, how to get people to interact with your media, which might be videos or audios or slide decks and things like that. So utilizing some of these forms of medium that people can click on, listen to, watch, it does something when you click on it. It really helps to increase what we call user engagement. And you get ranked in part on how your visitors are engaging with your content. So not only the time that they're there, but the number of pages that they visit. Did they come back a second or third time? Or are they just a first time visitor? These are things that I talk about in the book that I will also talk about on the stage. Now, on the stage, I'm going to talk a little bit more not just about SEO, but I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to talk about email and how it all comes together to increase online visibility. Because at the end of the day, like Amy was talking about, it's about building that rapport to increase sales. Some people are going to be more prone to search engine results. Some people are going to still open those emails, and some people are going to be more a social media person. So we're going to talk about the value of each and how you can create this dynamic marketing campaign to effectively reach your prospects wherever they prefer to be. That's what I'm going to be talking about. Anyways, we have gone over time, so we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much to Amy, who had to drop off, obviously, Sheila, the amazing Rick, Dr. Andrea Renee Rivera, and Eric Rosen. Thank you so much for not only participating today, helping to be an author in the book, but also in going to participate in our um, live main event that is happening. I'm just going to share it on the screen real quick. It's happening on Friday, November 3rd. It's called Growth Accelerated Network Event, Gain Ontario. It is free. There's a link here, and I'll share it in the comments. But you can get your general admission tickets for free. You do need to click this Buy Now button, even though it's free. So we'll click that and sign up, and then you can come for free. Now, if you want to learn more about it, we have our agenda here, which is a drop-down list, and you can see the times and date, what we call the run of show, when everybody's speaking. For example, I'm going last. I was first in the book, so I made myself last on stage. But you can see when everybody's going and what they're talking about. And then we also have, which is really cool, we have author bios for every single person. So, for example, if you want to learn more about Dr. Andrea Renee Rivera, you can click on it and you can learn more about her right there. And then if you want to go back to the events, just click that and it takes you right back to where you were. So anyways, if you're interested in the book, you can even learn more about the book right here, and you can click that button. It'll take you to the Amazon link. We have some featured guests. We have a famous person, Christy McGinty, coming. And then this is Joel Cleland. He's the MC for the event, which I'm really excited about. And then if you want to learn more information, or if for whatever reason you have any trouble, we had some people that were having trouble getting tickets, which we don't want anybody to have trouble getting tickets. So if you have any trouble signing up for your tickets, go ahead and drop us a message there in the contact form, and we'll make sure to get you on the list, because RSVP is required for security purposes. So we have to have everybody on the list to satisfy that requirement from the convention center. But I look forward to seeing all of the speakers there on stage. I look forward to hopefully seeing you, if you're watching this, there in Ontario as well. And until next time, next Monday, 11 a.m., we're going to sign off here for Marketing Mondays. But I encourage you to watch the show each and every week. What do we talk about? We talk about marketing strategies, all kinds of tips, information about marketing. You can ask marketing related questions. I think next time I'm going to cover how to write a book and some of the ways that you can market the book after the book has been published, to help you with what I called a leverage tool. So if you have written a book or you're going to write a book and you're interested in what to do with it once it's published, how do you get it from your hand to the world? I'm going to share some tips on that, I believe, next week. So tune in next Monday, 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. You can time adjust wherever you are. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to my guests. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you
Thank you, everybody.
next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank